Start. Good morning. Today we're going to discuss about global value chains with case Ratan part 2.
I call it part 2 because it's similar case with the previous ones, but we're going to take a look at from the different point of view. Okay, the title is still global value chain. So it's the presentation is part of the article that I wrote in 2019, title Cross-Cultural Collaboration for Inclusive Global Value Chains. The purpose of these projects or the article is to understand how cross-cultural collaboration promotes an inclusive global value chains. So I just want to highlight once again that global value chains embrace the international market competition by involving a process of productions, trade, and investments that occur in various countries. So it's just not the production process that upstream to downstreams doesn't belong to one country, but belong to various stakeholders in different countries. Okay, and the research participant involve some key resource guys at upstream industry and downstream industry. In the upstream industry, I call the rattan farmers in Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Aceh, and material supplier in Surabaya, Sulawesi, and 8 manufacturers in Cirebon, Surabaya, Solo, and 2 group wafers in Surabaya and Solo. And downstream industry involve 6 group of local designer who come from Cebu, Surabaya, Jakarta, Bandung, and Solo. And of course, Cirebon one more time. Then 3 international designer from Milan, Holland, Germany, and Manila. And the last research participant come from Netherlands, Germany, and France. Okay. From the case, I noticed that the value, there's a value gap. If you notice that rattan farmers just earns in rupiah, what we call is less than 20,000 rupiah per kilo, and some cases has reached into 3,000 rupiah per kgs. For rattan supplier, you can find that the price of rattan supplier can supply about $1.5. So from $0.2, it's become 1.5. Of course, the rattan supplier have to select which the ones that's best to sell to the industry, while the rattan farmer just go to the forest, cut the raw rattan and bring to the supplier. Then supplier selects, it just earns $0.2 per kg, while the supplier put all of the rattan, raw rattans, then brought to the what you call to their store, and then selected the good ones, and then they set the price around $1.5. While the weavers, the one who get outsourced from the manufacturers, they earns $30 per month. Sorry, for a piece of chairs. For one piece of chair, they earn $30. While the manufacturer, after they produce the things, the rattan, for example, armchairs, it costs $55. They get income from the manufacturer, gets money from the buyer, while the weaver from the manufacturers. And then local designer attempt to develop a new product, and then they sell to the local markets. They earn about $80 per piece of chairs. So it's slightly higher than the manufacturer, but of course it's different because manufacturer sells a lot of chairs while the local designer only some, let's see, 10, while the manufacturer has 4 to 5 containers. It's involve uh, hundreds of chairs. Okay, sales agency selling mass products with the brand new designs. You can find a piece of chairs around $400 at their stores, while international designer, so the world class, they can meet the world class buyer like hotel, cafe, even mansions belong to the rich guy. They earns a piece of paper around $1,000. So the price of a piece of chairs, is a vary from $55. Sorry, $55 to $1,000. So imagine from a piece of chairs, it's about 1 to 5 kgs. It's nearly similar to raw material. So imagine the raw material for per kg is around 0.2, and then they sell to the the end of the buyer. It's become $400 to $1,000. Yeah, some argue that's a huge gap because yeah, the farmer only earns very cheap, very small money, while the international designer huge money. But this is a business. Maybe some others said this is a business because for supplier you have to take a risk. You buy a lot from farmer, but maybe you can just sell for 30%, and then the rest supposed to cover all of the costs. Same with the uh, sales agency. They can, if they sell chairs, not only one chair, they assume maybe in a they bought one container, for example. They may just export can sell around 30%. So the rest has to cover the whole cost. That's why reasons why the costs are very high. Okay, what happened with the cross-cultural collaborations? Okay, we're going to take a look at some stakeholder and social mechanism, as well as the risks and limitations. Government in emerging countries. The government attempt to promote business inclusions to support the farmers. You know how they do it? They hire professional people to provide training and technological transfer. What happens? Then the activity to support business inclusions it's become project-based activities, lack of visions and lack of leadership. So they just based on 1 year projects finish, that's all. If the next years there's another guy who who manage the projects and provide the services, so it's not long term. So it's a the risk that occur at the government projects. For rattan farmers, they tend to plant rattan trees for alternative income because the forest people tend to cut the tree and sell it, and then they earn income. But because they plant a rattan, they can get income from selling rattans and keep maintaining or keep the forest standing with support. And the projects usually get support from the government. So the social mechanism, because the government and NGO encourage the farmers to plant or to manage the trees, I mean the rattan trees, so they will focus on the things. Rattan farmer also attempt to gain more value by cutting the role of middlemen. So by getting the direct access to the food industry, they expect that the price of rattan getting higher. But what happens? Many cases show that the farmers cannot provide the material continuously because they just focus go to the forest and cut the rattan and bring to the supplier. If they become farmer and they become supplier, they don't have enough resources. Otherwise, they manage their friend and then maybe they make it some people or they make organizations like cooperative, but it has not yet been done because organizing people from different places challenging. Okay. Of course, the middleman has more bargaining position to the industrial buyer. Another issue is some investor of palm oil try to offering a more competitive value of their product. I mean the palm oil rather than the rattans. So some farmer tend to convert their rattan into palm oil. So it's mean they ruin the forest. Okay, what about rattan supplier? Some rattan supplier, when they become bigger and they expand to establish manufacturers. However, they face some challenging issues such as difficult to find skillful workers. For example, designer, weaver. Even they sometimes they have find difficulty to find a buyer. They need a good marketing strategy and so on. Once again, they have lack of R&D resources, so they just, and then if they become industry, they will just rely on the buyer. Whatever the buyer say, they just follow, but they still focus on supplier. Okay, rattan weavers. So it is very small. It's a home 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 base level of industry. There's a very small family business, poor family business. They find difficulty to meet the manufacturer standards, uh, and why they're still doing the thing, because it's better. They said that it's better to earn from cheap waste than nothing. So they have no choice. What happened with the manufacturer in emerging markets? Okay, they get order from buyer or distributor in different countries like Europe, Japan, US, and then they have to adapt, creating innovation that provide by the buyers, and they try to transfer the technology from the retailer buyers to meet their standards, and then they also have a problem with industrial relationship with local worker and foreign descent, because during the crisis they have to lay off the worker, but during the peaks they need a worker, and then so they cannot just hire the worker the whole time, but the demands very fluctuated. And then they also attempt to conduct exhibition to get the buyer. Typically, the exhibitions get support from government buyer. Only those manufacturer who have access to association or even governments, they will get resources or opportunity to get involved or to present their product at the exhibitions. Okay, what about the retailer at the end market? Of course, they have to hire the designers at their home country, and then the production, they outsource the production at the emerging countries, different countries. So the designer is supposed to be the one who understands the buyer. So market turbulence is very sensitive to their product. For example, there's a market turbulence that spring from traditional from the market turbulence from the consumer move from traditional taste from to traditional designs to modern ones. For example, in the past they like rattan with like more traditional designs with a lot of uh, accessories. Whereas recently it's simple and then minimalist. That's happened in the market turbulence. Some young people, most of young people, I would like to say like that. That's in Europe they do not like rattan anymore. Maybe they prefer wood or or steel because the moderns. Okay. For local furniture designer, they also lack of financial capability to carry out R&D for rattan. Yes, it's typically they don't have researchers. Uh, for a big company, they might have one or two uh, R&D or designer, but at the retailer at the end of the markets, They really hire. They really rely on the professional designer to determine their markets. Of course, the future furniture retailer at the end of markets face policy turbulence in all country. They have to deal with the risk from home to host country where rattan produce and uh, plants, then until sales. So, for example, ban policy of rattans in Indonesia, for example. Okay, that's all.